Hello and welcome. So today we are diving into the story of a truly magical kind of textile. It's a fabric woven with the most vibrant colors and, believe me, an even more vibrant history. It's a craft that's part art, part mind-bending precision, and it all starts with a puzzle.
Okay, take a good look at this amazing geometric pattern. Now, what if I told you that this design, it wasn't printed on the cloth, it wasn't embroidered on top of it? No. It was all imagined, calculated, and dyed right onto the threads before they ever even touched a loom. Which brings up a pretty big question. How on earth is that possible?
Well, our journey to figure this out starts in a classroom in India. Just picture this. A teacher walks in, not with a stack of books, but with these bundles of cloth, shawls, and fabrics just bursting with color, completely lighting up the room. You can imagine the students were totally captivated. And honestly, so were we.
So, what is this mysterious fabric? The students, of course, had a million questions for their teacher, and the very first clue she gave them was its name.
It's called Ikat, and that's pronounced Ikat. Now, what's really interesting here is where that name comes from. The word itself is actually Indonesian, and it means to bind or to knot. Go ahead and tuck that little fact away, because it's pretty much the entire secret to how this whole thing is done.
So while the name might be Indonesian, this particular style of ikat has a very famous home in India. You'll find it in Pochampally, a village in the Nalgonda district. And that's really where our story is centered.
All right, let's get to the main event. How in the world do these weavers create such complex patterns before they even start weaving? This, my friends, is where art meets some seriously intense mathematics.
Okay, so first, a super quick weaving lesson. I want you to think of any piece of fabric like it's a piece of graph paper. You've got your warp threads, which are stretched vertically, like the y-axis, and then you have the weft threads, which are woven through them horizontally, just like the x-axis. That crisscross is what makes cloth. Simple enough, right?
This image right here, this shows you the heart of the whole ikat technique. The magic isn't happening during the weaving process. It happens way before, in the prep work, where the threads themselves are so meticulously tied and dyed to create the pattern in advance.
So, it all boils down to this 5-step process. First, the weaver calculates the entire pattern. Then, they tie up very precise sections of the thread. Next, those tied bundles are dyed. After that, the knots are untied to reveal the pattern on the loose threads. And only then, finally, is the fabric actually woven.
Which, of course, leads to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? I mean, if you're designing something on a bundle of literally thousands of loose threads, how do you know precisely where to tie every single knot so the pattern lines up perfectly later on? The answer is just pure, incredible human skill. This is not done by some fancy machine, it's done by artisans, a lot of times on these traditional hand-operated looms, who have this amazing knowledge that's been passed down for generations.
You know, one of the students in our story, a girl named Ramya, she just nailed it. She looked at all this and said, "Teacher, it seems like difficult maths." And you know what? She was 100% right.
Just try to wrap your head around what's going on in a weaver's mind. They have to count thousands of individual threads. They have to measure the exact distances for all the ties and calculate exactly where a pattern is supposed to repeat. They literally draw the whole design on graph paper first, and then painstakingly transfer that complex grid onto all those threads. It's just an amazing feat of mental calculation.
So we get the incredible math and skill involved, but ikat is so much more than just a technique. Every single one of these threads tells a story of heritage and a deep, deep history.
This craft is so beloved all across India that it actually has different names depending on the region you're in. In Telugu, it's called chitiki. In Gujarati, it's known as patola. And in Oriya, it just keeps the name Ikat.
And there's such a beautiful little story in that Telugu name. Chitiki can mean small, which is the perfect way to describe the little, almost raindrop-like dots of color that you see on the threads after they've been untied. So the name literally comes from how it looks during the process.
And historically, this fabric was a huge deal. It was a really prized export item to Southeast Asia. And, there are still debates going on today about its exact origins. Like, did it start in Gujarat and then move south, or was it the other way around? It's a history that's just as complex as its patterns. And this isn't just some artifact you'd find in a museum. It is woven right into the fabric of daily life and tradition. The sacred threads for the Raksha Bandhan festival, they were dyed with the ikat technique. The chitiki rumal was a super popular head covering for fishermen, and its designs, They even show a beautiful fusion of different cultures over time. And all of this brings us to a final, really powerful thought from the teacher in our story. She said, "In the race with the machine, we have forgotten our heritage." And that's just such a poignant reminder of what's really at stake when we choose speed over skill or mass production over mastery. It leaves us with a question to think about. In our world of fast fashion, what is the value of a single thread placed perfectly by a human hand?